My wife has been taking contraceptives to avoid pregnancy behind my back. At 36 years old, Marcus had seen enough of life to know what he wanted. When he met Sarah, a 28-year-old single mother with a 2-year-old daughter named Emma, he saw past the warnings and the whispers. His friends were furious. They told him he was making the biggest mistake of his life. They said he deserved better than raising another man's child. They predicted heartbreak and disappointment. But Marcus had always trusted his heart more than the opinions of others. Sarah was different from anyone he had ever met. She carried herself with a quiet strength that came from surviving difficult times. She worked 2 jobs to support her daughter, and despite the exhaustion that often showed in her eyes, she never complained. When Marcus looked at little Emma, he did not see someone else's responsibility. He saw an innocent child who deserved love and stability. He saw a chance to be the father figure she needed. Before the wedding, Marcus had insisted on one crucial conversation. He needed to know that Sarah was ready to fully commit to their new family unit. He needed assurance that the past would remain in the past. He explained that he could not build a future with someone who still had emotional or practical ties to a previous relationship. Sarah had looked him in the eyes and promised that her ex-boyfriend was completely out of the picture. She told him they had not spoken in over a year. She said the man had never shown interest in being a father to Emma. Marcus believed her. He had no reason not to. The wedding was small but beautiful. Marcus's family attended despite their reservations, and Sarah's relatives seemed genuinely happy that she had found someone willing to accept her situation. When Marcus placed the ring on Sarah's finger, he felt certain he was making the right choice. When he lifted Emma into his arms during the reception, the little girl wrapped her tiny hands around his neck and called him Daddy for the first time. In that moment, every doubt vanished. The first few months of marriage were everything Marcus had hoped they would be. He threw himself into fatherhood with complete dedication. He woke up early to make Emma breakfast before daycare. He read her bedtime stories every night, doing funny voices that made her giggle. He attended every school event, every parent-teacher meeting, every doctor's appointment. When Emma scraped her knee on the playground, Marcus was the one she ran to for comfort. When she learned to write her name, she wrote it with his surname. People in their neighborhood began calling him by Emma's name, the way parents are often identified by their children. He wore that identity with pride. Marcus made sure Emma had everything she needed and more. He enrolled her in a better school than Sarah could have afforded alone. He bought her books and toys and pretty dresses for special occasions. He started a savings account for her future education. He taught her to ride a bicycle in the park on weekends. He was building the family he had always wanted, and it felt right, it felt complete. The first sign of trouble came about 4 months into the marriage. Marcus came home early from work one afternoon and heard Sarah on the phone in their bedroom. The door was slightly open, and her tone was different from the way she usually spoke. It was softer, more careful, as if she was navigating a delicate situation. He could not hear everything, but he caught enough words to understand she was talking to a man. When she ended the call and came out, Marcus asked who it was. Sarah hesitated for just a moment before saying it was an old friend from college. Something in her hesitation made Marcus uneasy, but he chose not to press the issue. Over the next few weeks, Marcus noticed Sarah checking her phone more frequently. She would turn the screen away when he walked into the room. She started taking calls outside on the balcony, claiming the reception was better there. The easy openness that had characterized their relationship began to feel strained. Marcus tried to ignore the growing knot of anxiety in his stomach, but it became harder with each passing day. Finally, he confronted her directly. He told her he had noticed the secretive phone calls and asked if something was wrong. Sarah's face flushed, and after a long silence, she admitted the truth. She had been in contact with Emma's biological father. Marcus felt as if the ground had shifted beneath his feet. He asked her how long this had been going on and why she had broken her promise. Sarah became defensive. She argued that Emma needed to know her biological father. She said that keeping a child away from their parents was wrong, no matter what promises had been made before marriage. Marcus struggled to process this betrayal. He reminded Sarah that he was Emma's father in every way that mattered. He had been there for every milestone, every tear, every triumph. He provided for her, protected her, loved her unconditionally. If Emma needed a father figure, he was already fulfilling that role completely. Why did the biological father suddenly need to be involved when he had shown no interest before? Sarah accused Marcus of being jealous and insecure. She asked him to imagine how her ex-boyfriend must feel, knowing another man was raising his daughter. She painted Marcus as the unreasonable one for not understanding the complexity of the situation. The argument escalated until Marcus delivered an ultimatum. He said that either Emma would go live with her biological father or other relatives, or Sarah would have to leave. He could not continue pouring his heart, time, and resources into raising a child if he was not going to be recognized and respected as her father. The threat of divorce came quickly from Sarah's side. She said she would leave if Marcus could not accept the reality of their blended family situation. But Marcus noticed she did not actually pack her bags. She did not make concrete plans to go. Instead, she used the threat as a weapon to make him back down. After days of tension and tears, Marcus reluctantly agreed to a compromise. The biological father could have some contact with Emma, but Marcus would no longer be responsible for all her expenses beyond basic necessities like food and shelter. Sarah cried and called him heartless. She said he was punishing an innocent child for adult problems. But Marcus felt he had already given more than enough. He had opened his home, his life, and his heart. He had asked for only one thing in return: respect and recognition as Emma's father, and that had been denied. The compromise lasted less than a week before Sarah's tears and manipulation wore him down again. Marcus found himself right back where he started. As the months stretched into years, a new source of pain entered Marcus's life. Sarah did not get pregnant. At first, neither of them worried much about it. They were adjusting to married life and focusing on Emma. But as the first year passed, then the second, then the third, Marcus began to feel a deep anxiety taking root. He was approaching 40 years old. He had married partly because he wanted to build a family of his own. While he loved Emma, the situation with her biological father had created a distance he could not bridge. He longed for a child who would be fully his, a child whose paternity would never be questioned or complicated. They went to doctors together. Marcus underwent every test, every examination, every humiliating procedure. The results came back normal. Sarah's tests also showed nothing wrong. The doctors could find no medical reason why conception was not happening. They suggested reducing stress, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and simply giving it more time. Marcus took a month-long leave from work, something that cost him professionally, just to be home with Sarah and maximize their chances. Still, nothing happened. Marcus began to feel cursed. He questioned whether he had made a terrible mistake by marrying Sarah. He wondered if this was punishment for taking on a responsibility that was not originally his. The thoughts were dark and unwelcome, but they came anyway during sleepless nights. He watched friends and co-workers announce pregnancies and felt a bitter envy he had never experienced before. His extended family, who had initially opposed the marriage, now asked pointed questions about when he would have children of his own. Each inquiry felt like a knife twist. The discovery came by accident, as these things often do. Marcus was searching for a pen in Sarah's handbag one ordinary Tuesday morning. He needed to sign some documents before leaving for work, and his own pen had run out of ink. As he rummaged through the bag, his hand closed around a small packet of pills. He pulled it out, assuming it was aspirin or vitamins. When he read the label, his entire body went cold. They were contraceptive pills, not just a few days' worth, but a full prescription that had been regularly refilled. The date on the pharmacy label showed Sarah had been taking them for the entire duration of their marriage. Every month, while Marcus agonized over their inability to conceive, while he subjected himself to medical tests and took professional risks to be home more often, Sarah had been deliberately preventing pregnancy. Marcus stood in their bedroom with the pills in his hand, and something inside him broke in a way that could not be repaired. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that he could barely breathe. She had watched him suffer. She had accompanied him to doctor's appointments and pretended to share his disappointment month after month. She had accepted his efforts to increase their chances of conception while secretly ensuring those efforts would fail. The cruelty of it was staggering. When he confronted Sarah that evening, she tried to explain. She said she was not ready for another child. She claimed she was afraid of how pregnancy might affect her body and her ability to work. She argued that they already had Emma and did not need more children right away. But Marcus heard none of it as justification. If Sarah had concerns about having children, she should have communicated them honestly. They could have discussed it, compromised, found a solution together. Instead, she had lied through omission every single day. Marcus realized then that he had been living with a stranger. The woman he thought he knew, the woman he had trusted enough to build a life with, did not actually exist. In her place was someone capable of profound deception and selfishness. Someone who would take everything he offered while giving nothing real in return. Someone who would watch him suffer and feel nothing. He packed his bags that same night. Sarah cried and begged him to stay. She promised to stop taking the pills. She said they could start trying for a baby immediately. But Marcus understood that trust, once shattered so completely, could never be put back together. He had entered the marriage with open hands and an open heart, willing to love a child who was not biologically his, willing to take on responsibilities that others had abandoned. He had asked for honesty and partnership in return. Instead, he had received manipulation and betrayal at every turn. Marcus left the house he had paid for, left the child he had raised as his own, left the marriage he had fought so hard to believe in. At 39 years old, he had to start over completely. The experience had marked him in ways that would take years to heal. But as he drove away that final night, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Free from the lies, free from the manipulation, free from giving endlessly to people who saw him only as a resource to be used. Months after Marcus walked away, Sarah was found dead by a gunshot. Her ex-boyfriend and Marcus were the prime suspects, but there was no evidence.